Let's talk about templates specifically. What is a template? So a template is essentially the sonic color palette that we draw from as a composer. You know, it's kind of like ground zero for us. To use an example, say a painter is preparing to create an ocean landscape. Before they set out to create this masterpiece, they're going to say, okay, it's an ocean landscape. I'm going to need a little bit of dark blue, a little bit of light blue, and there's going to be a sunset, so let's get some yellows and oranges on there. And they kind of go about creating visually what they think they're going to need for the project before they even set out. We do the very same thing before we start a project, especially a film or a television project, right? So we go about setting out a template. Okay, I think we're going to need strings for this project, going to need some brass and perhaps some synthesizers as well. And we kind of go about setting up the musical elements we're going to need for a given project. So that's one type of template, a template in which we create something that's more specified for a certain project that we're going to draw from for inspiration as we write. The other type of template is more generalized and can sometimes be bigger. Some composers always draw from this large generalized template when they start a project. And there's an advantage to both, but this larger generalized template will often include all of our orchestral sounds. And in the next lesson coming down, we're going to talk about how to go about setting up a template specifically for large-scale orchestral works. There's a certain way we pan them, there's a certain way we add reverb and things like that. So because there's a lot that goes into getting orchestral sounds to sound the way we want them to, in some instances it makes sense to have a template that kind of remains constant. So this is how my brass sounds after the panning and reverb I've added. I want them to sound that way all the time because coloristically and sonically in terms of the mix, I really like it. These are the way my strings sound. There's not too much reverb, you know, they're nice and crisp. This is how I always want them to sound. So that is kind of how I'm going to lay out my template, and that's what I'm going to draw from all the time. So in some instances, these templates can be as large as 500 plus tracks for composers running multiple computers and multiple slave systems. For me, my template sometimes runs in the neighborhood of around 150 tracks. Depending upon who you talk to and what their attitude is about templates, sometimes you can go overkill and just use way too much processing power and perhaps more than you have to. So to each their own, but templates are essentially, again, the sonic color palette we use as composers to draw inspiration from. So probably the best way to associate you and introduce you more closely to what a template is and how it functions, I think we should just go take a look at my template. I'll show you some of the sounds and we'll take a look around. Let's hop over to the computer.